So Shiloh Hendricks is a lady in Minnesota who was at a park or something with her son, and some 5-year-old came up to her and was trying to steal something from her. And so Shiloh Hendricks said the N-word to this 5-year-old, allegedly. And she was confronted by this Somali guy with a camera in the park, and he, was confronting her about whatever this situation was. And so this caused quite the stir amongst media outlets and political pundits, and they were talking about it on a bunch of shows. Here's a clip from Piers Morgan's show where they talk about the aftermath of this incident and talking about the N-word as well.
I want to live in a country where people are allowed to say what they want unashamedly, and you will
well, go
not
on then,
have
say
free
it. Say
you
the
will
M-
not have
Go on,
free speech.
go on. Say the M word. Go on.
No.
Hang on.
Invite. No.
No.
I don't want you to invite this woman to say a racially harmful term in front of me, because I'm the only on here. So if she says it, I'm the victim of it. So please don't invite her for ratings to call me the N-word, because that's basically what it's going to be. There's a bunch of white people up here, you and one Uncle Tom on the left here, and asking her to say the N-word while I'm here is ridiculous. You would not sit here with a Jewish person and say, please use a Jewish slur in front of this Jewish. It's ridiculous. I understand you don't have any bad intent, Piers. I understand what you're trying to do, but we already know she's racist, and I don't want to invite a racial harm to me.
I hear you, and I accept that, and we'll leave it there. Thank you.
Well, gentlemen, go on, say it. Say it, go on. PJ, what do you think about that? And Shiloh Hendricks and that whole situation. Give us your thoughts.
Well, having just said a few moments ago that I want to make sure we give biblical worldview, Christian worldview to cultural situations, I would say this, that the Christian is not necessarily given by God this idea of free speech. We are actually instructed to have regulated speech.
Yes, that's very true.
Yeah, so like passages like Ephesians 4, I think verse 29, where it says, let no corrupt communication proceed out of your mouth, but that which is good for the use of edifying, that it may minister grace unto the hearers. Later in Ephesians, it's Ephesians 5. Early on in the chapter, verses 2 and 3, there's some regulation given about Christian communication. Even in the Ten Commandments, don't take the Lord God's name in vain. And we can debate about exactly what that means, but
don't bear false witness. Another 10 Commandment.
Yeah. So it's nice in the United States of America, this notion of free speech, but we understand as Christians our speech should be regulated by the Spirit of God.
Yes.
Okay, so that's one thing I want to say.
Absolutely.
Another thing I want to say though is that people are way too sensitive about what other people say. Okay, and it is a weak person that is often offended. Strong people, and we're in a ministry called Strength for Life. Strong people don't take themselves too seriously. And they're not easily offended people. So this idea of black fragility, is the idea that basically, if you say the N-word to me, I'm going to crumble. It has made a lot of people within the black community fragile, and easily offended, and they use it as leverage, and on and on. Now, I grew up in an all-black community. I heard and said the N-word all the time. I also served the Lord at a rescue mission for 8 years, surrounded by black people. And so I have lots of black friends. I talk to several of them almost every day. Different fellows that I ministered to at the youth center text me with prayer requests and just things going on. So
shout out Big Moose.
Yeah, it's Moose and Greg and Lamont and Bug and Peanut and I mean just all Jake Bibbs and just all kinds of guys. And just guys that I love and have a strong relationship with. None of those guys are easily offended. So, but can Christians ever use pejoratives? Is it a Christ-like thing to do that? Well, I don't know that in that context, the way Shiloh did it, that would be a Christian way to communicate. But Jesus did use pejoratives. In the Sermon on the Mount, Jesus called people dogs, and he called them swine in the Sermon on the Mount. Even Stephen, in his message to the Sanhedrin, which he got stoned for,
stiff-necked and uncircumcised.
Yes, he's calling people names. And Stephen had the face of an angel, and Stephen is super Christ-like in his death, where he is saying, lay not this sin at their charge, which is Christ-like, because when Jesus died on the cross, he says, Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do. I'm just saying in a certain situation, a pejorative can be appropriate. So the idea of let no corrupt communication proceed out of your mouth means that our speech should be regulated, but the rest of that verse is where the subjectivity comes into play. So let no corrupt communication proceed out of your mouth, but that which is good for the use of edifying, that it may minister grace to the hearers. There's subjectivity there. Like, so what does it mean to edify somebody? And what is exactly grace for the sake of the hearers? That's where people debate. And so, like, there's probably a lot of Christians today that would say, Stephen, you never should have said stiff-necked and uncircumcised because that didn't edify the Sanhedrin. That didn't minister grace to the hearer. The Christians today would rebuke Jesus for saying, oh, dogs and swine. You know, you didn't have to use those words, Jesus, you know. And so here's how I think a pejorative can be used to edify and minister grace. Here's how it can work well. And that is, as I said before, weak people are easily offended people. And so I don't think we need to take pejoratives out of culture. I think people need to get over, you know, taking themselves so seriously and getting offended by a pejorative. I don't think there is a term that somebody could throw at me that is going to like deeply wound me. Now I know there's history with the N-word and all this stuff, and people bring that stuff up, but that's 100 years ago. Those kinds of things, you know, slavery and all that, super sad, totally wrong the way it was conducted. We understand that. When there was abuse, it was terrible. But that stuff's not happening today, okay? And so I think we need to stop taking ourselves so seriously and being so easily offended. And speaking of being offended, let me say this. The idea sticks and stones may break my bones,
That's what I was thinking.
but words or names will never hurt me, you know, is not necessarily true, because words and names do hurt, but I get to determine how long they're going to hurt me.
Yes.
So if and you boys know I've had a motorcycle accident, so I had like legit fractures, okay? And so there's a time window. The doctor says, okay, now you could heal as quick as this. Some people heal this fast, some people take this long, but they're gonna give you a time window for a fracture, and it's basically objective hurt, okay? When somebody calls me a name, it's subjective hurt or fracture, if you will. Yes. In other words, I determine how long it takes for me to get over it. Right. You know, I can hold on to it for the rest of my life. People do this in marriage. Their spouse says something stupid, what I call below the belt, and they remember it for 20 years.
Yeah.
And so I'm just saying we need to be stronger. And to say, oh, there's just words that can't be said, and that just we're gonna accommodate the culture in that way, just cultivates a weaker culture.
Yes. So you talked about that word being a pejorative, and it can be used as a pejorative, no doubt. But that word, the N-word, is not a pejorative, and here's how we know that.
Okay.
That black people constantly, probably 30,000 times every day, formally greet each other with the N-word.
Well, that's how they would greet me.
Right, that was the example.
Yeah.
Precisely. So if this word was such a vile, offensive word that it caused so much deep-seated hurt, it wouldn't be such a formal, everyday, nonchalant greeting amongst black people.
And it does depend on how anything is said.
Yes.
You know, you can say something in a friendly way, or you can say something in a demeaning way.
Yes.
And I think that the heart of the tone matters when you communicate something.
We have this word stigmatized as like the most vile word. It's actually, the N-word is the only word on the planet that with one pigmentation, it is the vilest, worst word that you could ever use. And with another pigmentation, it's okay. It's actually, you know, common amongst that pigmentation.
You know
of people.
who has a good take on these topics is Larry Elder. He ran for governor in the state of California, and he lost to Gavin Newsom. Listen to me, California would be so much better if Larry Elder was their governor. A well-educated black man, just a wonderful fella. And you know, Larry Elder tried to run for president, but he couldn't get on the debate stage. But I sure wish he would have, because he's a genius and is a good conservative politician. Not only Larry Elder, but like Officer Tatum.
Yeah.
He makes a lot of the points I make, but I'm a little bit more overtly biblical with the way I'm trying to describe it than Tatum is. And I don't endorse everything he would, I think he's more Pentecostal and Church of God, that kind of stuff. He's got a tattoo that says Acts 2:38, which is a theme verse for most Pentecostals. I love Acts 2:38, don't get me wrong, but I think people are confused about the application of it. But I mean, there's really good black commentators out there, because I just said a bunch of stuff that because I'm white, I'm not supposed to say.
Right. It's such
which
a
is
joke.
also absurd.
It's a game, yes. We shouldn't play the game.
Like white people aren't supposed to talk about black issues, or males aren't supposed to talk about female issues. On one of the videos I did recently about femininity, which of course I am a pastor of females as well as males, and I'm married to a female, and I had 3 sisters. I mean, so it's like I understand some things about what the Bible says about it. I should be able to talk about those things, but one of the commenters said, and I do try to stay out of the comments, but one of the commenters said, this whole video was good and true, they said, but would have come a lot better from your wife than from you, as if to imply I'm not supposed to say those things. And that's the same. But listen, if it's truth, people should speak it, and if it can make people stronger, and the things I just endeavored to say about speech really should make people stronger.
Yeah, and Charlie Kirk makes the point, like, do you have an opinion on, like, Hitler and the Nazis and the Jewish thing? And it's like, well, you weren't there for that. You're not Jewish. You're not Hitler.
Yeah, but you can have
an opinion on it. You should have an opinion on it.
Yes.
Something that I've noticed with that is it's very strange to me how some people get offended by that. I'm referring to like black people, how they'll get offended by that, some of them, but others don't care. Like the guys you're talking about at the the youth center.
Yeah.
They don't care. But then there's other ones that would get offended by it. And I think that the difference is not, those people are so much more educated on slavery and the terribleness of slavery. But instead, those people are told by somebody else that they should be offended by it.
Right.
And that's why they're offended by
Yes.
it. If you ask somebody who's like that guy in that clip, whatever his name was, Lamont, is that what you said?
Yeah,
his name
he was freaking out.
He's freaking out because
over it.
somebody told him you should get offended when somebody says the N-word in front of you. When a white person says the N-word in front of you. Not because he's so educated on slavery and the bonds of slavery and how white people suppress black people. He wasn't there for that. He doesn't he can be educated on that, but it shouldn't offend him.
Yes.
Right, and there's a black
point.
man right next to him, and he uses a racial slur against him by calling him an Uncle Tom.
Yes, that's a pejorative, a racial slur.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, and so he's guilty of the very thing he's offended about.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. And in the clip, in his rebuttal, and like he was so angry, his camera is shaking, he's freaking out. Like that's not how anybody should act, even when they're offended. Not any grown man, anyway. Should not be freaking out, irate over a word.
Yeah.
In his rebuttal of peers asking the question, he says the N-word.
Yeah,
He
calls
said,
himself
"I'm the
that.
only N-word on the platform right now."
Yeah.
Yeah,
Like,
it's not a pejorative.
Yes, it's a farce. It's a game. It's not real. Like if you're black, you can say it. If you're white, you can't say it. It's all nonsense.
Right, and it's all through rap music, by the way.
Yes.
Yeah,
It's crazy.
They're saying it constantly.
I think it's Denzel Washington. Is it Denzel Washington? No, it's the guy that's
Morgan Freeman.
Morgan Freeman.
Yes,
Yep.
yes.
Who makes the idea that like if we're gonna make racism go away, the way to make it go away is stop talking about it. Stop differentiating yourself from white people and making it such a big thing. Like if you look at that thing, the panel of people on that thing, there's no difference between them. They all have cameras set up. They're all in a nice house. There's no like smoke alarm beeping in his every once in a while. You know what I'm saying? Like there's no difference there until he gets offended. Then it's like that guy's the one that's
He's
offended
making
on
it
the
about
panel.
race.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Right.
Absolutely.
Yes, and growing up in the 80s and 90s like I did in a mostly black neighborhood, race was not an issue.
Yes.
I mean, we didn't look at each other that way. I mean, other than to playfully say things like that, it was just they were my friends, I was their friends, this kind of stuff.
Yes.
I do believe that the racial tensions got stirred up again in America once President Obama became a president and Eric Holder was the Attorney General. And the way that administration responded to like the Ferguson riot and the Baltimore riot was unhelpful. The way the administration at the time responded to those issues only inflamed racial tensions in our country in an unhelpful way.
Yes, and weak-minded people may get mad at you for the really good monologue that you gave about racism. They would say that you shouldn't say those words or whatever. But when Chris Rock says the same thing, or when a black person says the same exact thing you said, it's true and they agree with it. But when you say it, you can't. And culture has done this thing where we overrate experiences or attributes and we underrate truth. And the time in culture where we flip those two and when we start saying, hey, truth is predominant and experiences and attributes and whatever you've gone through or who you are is lesser than the truth. So the truth should be, we should be able to say the truth no matter what color skin you have, no matter what experiences you've had. We should rate truth higher than your experiences.
Yeah, because truth is what makes us strong.
Yes.
And truth is what sets us free.